Sorry, ladies and gentlemen. I'm only drinking local in May. In May, here's what we do in Indianapolis. We say, this is May, right? This is May. Well, look, the Anheuser-Busches of the world have blanked me off. And DD's Summer of Fun, I'm only drinking local. Moondrops Distillery is the official spirits provider of Danny D's Summer of Fun. That's it. That's all. That's all. But I need local beers. I need beers in and around the great state of Indiana, and I need you to help me because I know Sun King. I know Sun King. I know Sun King well, but I need other beers. So please go to our YouTube chat or put us on Twitter and let me know because I am going on a shopping spree. Probably tomorrow after I play golf. I'm going to go on a shopping spree. I'm going to load up because the weather's going to be nice. And damn it, I need local beer. I'm not drinking any Anheuser-Busch. Shout out to my boy Kevin Custer. He is trying to get to all baseball parks. He was at the Nats, whatever they call it in Washington, D.C., for Cubs and Nationals. All they had was Anheuser-Busch products. And as you know, with Dylan Mulvaney making fun of women, we ain't about that action, boss. We ain't about that action. So a beer-loving man from Gary, Indiana, the great Kevin Custer, said, I ain't drinking beer. No beer for me. No beer for me. Period. That's commitment. That's what we represent here on Don't At Me. We represent stick-to-itiveness. We represent morals. We represent women. We represent men being men. In fact, I'm talking tonight at St. Luke's men's dinner. All the Catholic school coaches across the city of Indianapolis are going to be there, and I am the guest speaker, and I am going to let her rip. I'm going to let her rip on the need for men to be men. I'm going to let her rip on what Burgess Owens talked about yesterday, that men need to be protectors. This wimpy feminization of men needs to stop, and it needs to stop immediately, and I'm going to be all over it tonight, and I cannot wait. My dance card is filling up with speeches, and I got to tell you, I love it. I love it. I don't like it. Speaking of love it, don't like it, I'm going to get in real quick to the Celtics, and then I got to tell you, I'm not so sure World War III isn't about to start. You know, Malcolm Brogdon whipped the pass in Game 1 for the Celtics, and they got their brains beat out. I didn't get their brains beat out. Tyrese Maxey laid it in. Everybody thought it was a shot clock violation. Well, Brogdon came back, set a record 6 threes coming off the bench, scored in the 20s, 34-point win for the Celtics last night. They just decided, look, we're not messing around. We're not messing around with you people anymore. We're not screwing around. Embiid, you're back. 15, 5 blocks. That's great. Yay, Rod, go fight, win. We don't care. You know, there is such thing as Celtic pride, and I am all about that action, boss. I'm all about pride. Coming up today, Greg Anthony has a take that I decided that I am going to buy. The Celtics won last night. I've watched a ton of NBA, and I got to tell you, from start to finish, the NBA right now, the players in the NBA are the best we've ever had. Now, I don't know if I agree with the fact he says they're the most decorated. I don't know about that because Bird and Magic and Isaiah and Michael, obviously, all these, they were great. Malone, it was fantastic. But from pillar to post, start to finish, I think he's absolutely right. This is the best that we have seen. You know, here's the deal. I'm going to get more into the NBA here in a minute. But here's the deal. I'm worried. I'm not going to lie. I'm worried. And I don't know if you are or you aren't, but I'm worried to the point where we're going to start growing our own food out here. We're going to start growing. Lee's already got tomatoes going. She's already got lettuce going. I mean, she's got this whole thing figured out. What am I worried about? I'm not going to lie to you. I'm worried about World War III. I'm worried that man right there, the Zelensky, the guy who wants to be a star, are too stupid not to have World War III. They're smart men. And our guy, I don't know what our guy wants. Our guy Biden, and isn't that disgusting? I want to know, what does our guy want? Does he want World War III? I'm saying this. I'm worried. A drone attacked the Kremlin, ran into the Kremlin. Now, look, I got to tell you, it's from Ukraine, and Russia is blaming the United States. You see it right there. We can show that as many times as you want, Dylan. I missed it, but that's pretty good. Look, here's the deal. Russia should blame the United States. If I were Russia, I would say, look, where's Ukraine getting the money for drones? Where's Ukraine getting the money for all of their computer-generated stuff? Let's put it that way. Where are they getting the money? You know where they're getting the money. There it comes. You see it right now. Boom! They're getting it from Washington, D.C. Our money, our tax dollars are going. And if I were Putin, the first person I would look at would be the United States. If I were Putin, I would say, what in the hell are we doing? Because we're funding this. You think Ukraine's got the technology? Ukraine's got the money to do all this stuff? If I am Putin, I'm saying the hell they do. No, they don't. They don't. Well, guess what? I'm worried. I'm not a worrier. I am the least worried person about stuff like this of anybody that you could possibly know. But when you see that, if we saw that on the White House, oh man, or the Capitol building, or the Washington Monument, you name it, in the middle of Washington, D.C., if we saw that today, what would you think? See, sometimes you've got to try and put yourself in the position of the other person. And the other person sitting there, I always go to the beard when I'm doing some deep thinking. The other person's got to be thinking, hey, who did this? Line them up. Who could possibly have done this? Well, the Ukraine is the obvious choice. Where's Ukraine getting the money? Who's funding this? Because let's be honest, the funding is the most important thing in here. Who's funding this becomes it. And I got to tell you, it scares the hell out of me. Look, I got kids. I'd like to see grandkids. I'd like to not have a bomb go off somewhere in the United States, but I swear to God, and I'm not trying to be a jerk here, how does it not happen? Serious business. How does it not happen? When you look at the level of incompetence, we've always been the one who has struck fear in others. Now the dollar's going south. Nobody's paying attention to it. We got drones flying into the Kremlin from a country that we fund. How does it not happen? Scares the living hell out of me. It really and truly does. It does. We'll see, man. A lot of suggestions coming in on local beers, and I thank you. Upland Brewery, Sun King, I know. And I'm telling you right now, that's what I'm trying to get to. I'm trying to get to where everything is local. I refuse to buy an Anheuser-Busch product. I refuse, absolutely refuse, will not do it. I will not buy a Nike product. I don't even know. I may be wearing a Nike shirt, but I will not buy a Nike product. I just won't do it. I don't need Tampax. Some people think that maybe I do, but I don't think. And the truth of the matter is, I am in total support of local from now until the end of time. I'm just telling you. That's it. That's it. Last night, the Hurricanes beat the Devils. Look, the Devils, this is why I say the other day that, you know what? It's hard to come back from a series. It is. It's hard. It is really hard. I mean, look, the Oilers get beat. I was watching that Golden Knights game, and it was like goal after goal after goal. It was pretty fun. Couple goals at the end of the second period. Next thing you know, the Golden Knights get her done. The Hurricanes, the Devils look spent. Devils went 7 games with the hated Rangers, got it done, and next thing you know, they had to start a series with the Hurricanes, and they had nothing. They had absolutely nothing there. Now, I don't think the Devils are dead 24-inch buds. No, I'm not. I said they looked dead last night. They did not. They are not dead. It's game one, but coming off, try to understand the psychology here. Coming off of a big series win, I don't know. To me, they looked dead in the water. They looked at the whole time, and we made a little money on the Devils. And I'm going to give you right now early baseball, 1 o'clock baseball. It's getaway day because it's Thursday. So I'm on fire. I'm not kind of, sort of on fire. I'm on absolute freaking fire. Did you know that last night the Detroit swept in Detroit the New York Mets? Swept them. Doubleheader, 6-5, 8-1. Swept them. All right? I'm taking them. I'm taking the Mets today in a parlay. I'm taking them with Tampa Bay. Now, Tampa Bay beat the living you-know-what out of Pittsburgh yesterday. And maybe, just maybe, they're not going to be ready to play after winning 8-1. That's what. But I'm taking them because it's plus money. So afternoon baseball, I am taking the Tampa Bay Rays at home where they are 16-2. I'm taking them. I'm sorry, but I'm taking them. And I'm taking the Mets. Mets are only 16-14. Remember when the Mets were supposed to be great? Remember when the Mets, Steve Cohen has done an amazing job. Steve Cohen's doing this, blah, 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 blah. Mets are 10-8 away from home. They just got swept. They're not losing 3 in a row to the lowly Tigers. They're not. I'm sorry. I'm going to give you the Tigers lineup. You tell me who any of these guys are. Vierling, we know Javi Baez. R. Green, Haas. Torkelson was like the first pick in the draft, and they got clowns. So I'm telling you right now, jump on this with me. Our toes are going to be tapping. I put 50 large on it to win about 80. You know what I mean? So I'll get 130 back, something like that on DraftKings. Look, I'm not a degenerate. I just do some thinking. There's some thinking up here. Took a parlay yesterday. White Sox, when the game was going on, it was tied. And the Yankees, when the game was going on, and it was tied. And we hit that one nice. Anyway, I just want to throw that in. Greg Anthony is going to join us coming up here in a few minutes. And let me give you my take on why I think NBA players are better than ever. I'm going to give you a name. Lamar Stevens. Does anybody know who Lamar Stevens is? Tell me if you do. I'd love to hear if you know who Lamar Stevens is. Lamar Stevens was a really good basketball player, and I think he may even be in the NBA right now. He was at Penn State. And I'm doing a game at Penn State. No, I'm not. I'm doing a game at Michigan. Michigan, Penn State. And I'm talking to Lamar Stevens on the court before the game. And I'm looking at Lamar Stevens. And I realize Lamar Stevens is bigger and stronger than anybody that I played against in college. Now, if you're going to say the NBA is greater than it's ever been, then the era that I came up through of Bird, of Magic, a little bit before me, Isaiah, about my age, Jordan, absolutely my age, Drexler, my age, Malone, my age, Barkley, my age. All these guys you put in a pile, basically from 1979 when Larry Bird and Magic Johnson came in, through 85 when all the guys that I mentioned came in, you know, Drexler, Olajuwon, Ewing, who else would be, Jordan, Sam Kerr, all these guys to 85, and then others came in. Isaiah, you know, he was in the 80s. All right. The biggest, baddest, strongest guy during that era was a guy named Charles Hurt at Kentucky. Charles Hurt was described in Sports Illustrated as Charles Atlas. I'm looking at Lamar Stevens, and I'm saying to myself, all right, I'm going to go back and look at a picture of Charles Hurt, who was the biggest, strongest guy, or Michael Graham, who played at Georgetown, who was the biggest, strongest guy. And Lamar Stevens was so much bigger than either of those guys, and yet he was the same size as damn near everybody on Michigan. And then I started watching the game going, damn, these guys can do things that nobody can do. These guys can do things that haven't happened. So I'm watching the NBA, and I started thinking the same thing. I did. I started thinking the same exact thing. Like, wow, these dudes are bigger, stronger, more physical, and shoot it better. It's pretty amazing, really. It's pretty astounding. And it's a free-flowing game. I think JPG said that on our YouTube chat. It goes up and down. Too many threes for my taste. Like, I think the two is important in a lot of ways. The pull-up jump shot on the road stops momentum. We're down. We're up 4. All of a sudden, we're on the road. Golden State goes on a 10-0 run. The crowd's going nuts. I don't care how you get points. I don't care if it's a 3, a 2, or a free throw. You got to get points just to quell this thing. Now, analytics say it's got to be a 3 or an at the rim 2, and that's crap. I need to squelch this thing. So anyway, my point being, I think that there is too much emphasis on the 3. But hey, I'm wrong based on analytics. But I don't disagree even a little bit with what Greg Anthony is saying. I can't wait to talk to Greg about that. One of the other things that happened last night is a lot of people are feeling like Kendrick Perkins, the idiot racist guy on TV, turned the vote for MVP to Joel Embiid. Look, I think Joel Embiid turned the vote for MVP to Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid was great down the stretch. And I've told you this before, and I'll tell you this again. When you watch college basketball, the awards are voted on like in the middle of January. Like, I used to get the Wooden Award ballot and all these award ballots when I was a head coach, and I would send it back going, hey, I'll send you my picks, but I got to wait till the end of the season. Why? Because the most important games occur at the end of the season. We're going to Indiana to play for the conference title. We're going to Michigan. If we win this game, we move into first place. Michigan's on a roll. First time all year, they got a packed house. You see what I'm saying here? So I've always said, even in the NBA, when you're battling for home court advantage, the games at the end of the season are the most important. Like, I understand if you win games early in the year, it makes games less important at the end of the year. The only sport that gets away from all this is what? It's football. You got 17 games. Lose 1, that's huge. I mean, baseball, look, you lose 10 in a row, it's 1/16 of the season. You got all kind of time to make it up. Get your bullpen right, get your hitters hot, and next thing you know, you're going to win 10 in a row. But the fact of the matter is, in basketball, I always believe the end of the season is most important. I do. I just think it is. And so I think Embiid dominated the last stretch of the season. Yeah, maybe Perkins made white guys a little less leery to vote, or yeah, maybe Perkins made black guys that have votes maybe a little more likely to vote. I don't know. But the fact of the matter is, and the Vegas odds say it, but that's fine. But the fact of the matter is, I believe that Embiid just played his brains out. I think he just absolutely played his brains out, and he won the MVP. Dan, you're a hypocrite. The three-point shot helped you and Indiana win a national championship in 1987. Yeah, it did. Steve Alford hit 7 of them in the national championship game. That's fine, but I got to tell you, when I watch the NBA, it's just a little too reliant on it. I think 50-some threes were taken by the Warriors the other day. All right. Coming up in a couple minutes, we're going to get to Greg Anthony, but I continue to be baffled by this state of Indiana fans. 45-52-1 in 6 years. That's what our general manager, Chris Ballard, is here in Indianapolis. He's had not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, but 5 head coaches. 5. He is on his 7th quarterback. Very few general managers get to pick 5 head coaches or go through 6, now 7 quarterbacks. But he did. He drafted a bunch of guys that could run fast, apparently. That's what they tell me. And he absolutely bodied the draft, I hear. How does a guy that has that kind of record, be so loved in a city that has had championships, Super Bowls, Peyton Manning, Edgerrin James, Marvin Harrison, Reggie Wayne, Dallas Clark, Dwight Freeney, Robert Mathis, super great players? How does a guy doing that get so vilified? So accepted. It's amazing to me. And Indianapolis, you're unbelievable. I'll let you know when Greg is on. We're looking forward to talking to Greg Anthony. Absolutely, because I agree with what he said. I think players are bigger. I think they're stronger. And I swear to God, every time a guy even has a decent look now, he knocks it down. And I'm talking about from deep, except for Jordan Poole. Now, Jordan Poole, I'm going to ask Greg what he thought of the shot because, look, Jordan Poole, going back to college, is a guy that has made shots. I mean, he beat Houston with an unbelievable three right side, and he's always had the sack to go ahead and do it. Greg Anthony was a terrific, terrific NBA player, a terrific college player at UNLV. And he joins us now, a fantastic announcer. You've seen him on CBS, TNT, and everywhere else. Hey, Greg, first and foremost, thanks for the time. Second, I played in college a little bit before you. When I was in Indiana, we played Jordan, and Ewing was there, and all these guys, right? I mean, and when it hit me the other day, Greg, I swear to God, I'm watching a ton of NBA, and I'm like, you know what? Individually, maybe not, but collectively, these are the best players we've ever had in basketball. And then I read your tweet on it, and everybody lost their collective effing minds on you. And I'm sitting there going, no, the dude is right.
Yeah. You know, I'll address that first. Dan, first, it's a pleasure to be on with you, and I appreciate your perspective. And I think just in general, I wish we could hear without always having to, you know, make it be about, well, who's right or who's wrong. Like, you could firmly believe Michael Jordan is the greatest player ever. I'm not even here to debate that. But that doesn't mean he played in the era where the best basketball players who ever played, right? Like, and I'd always even say this with my friends. I'm like, wait a minute. So who, when Michael played, was as the second or third best player, was better than Jokic or Embiid or Kevin Durant or Giannis, for that matter, or Steph Curry? And my point is that the game has evolved, and like it's kind of like when you're a kid, Dan. I always use this analogy. Like when you're a kid, remember the scariest movie you ever watched? That you couldn't you were just afraid out of your mind to watch that movie when you were a young kid, right? Then you go back and you watch that same movie 20 years later. You almost start laughing because you're like, man, I was really afraid of that when I watched that when I was young, right? Like, because we got it when I came in the league in the early 90s. Guys from the 70s, oh, man, we were so much better than you guys. And I'm like, wait a minute. So you're going to tell me the car, that 1972 Pinto, was a better car than the 2008 Ford Escort or whatever the car is? You know, like, to me, I find it to be a bit comical. And again, it's not that those guys weren't more accomplished and they weren't great players, because they were. But these guys have taken what they took to another level. And so that's where I came from with all this stuff. The game is far more difficult. The court's bigger because guys now, like, we didn't have to guard guys at 38 feet. You never worried about a guy scoring at 38 feet. So you've made the court bigger. There's more room to cover, which puts more strain on your defense. It doesn't even mean guys aren't better defenders today. They just have to defend in bigger areas and in more space. And so the game has evolved in that regard. And so that's kind of the take and where I was going on at it with that. And I was listening to you when you're talking about analytics. So I look at analytics like our politics, right? Like the extremes on both sides, right? Like 7% of the extreme left and the right have become the talking points for the other 86% of the country. Most people are kind of in the middle, and it's the same thing with analytics. Like, I think analytics are great for the game, but they're not the end all that be all. Like, you know, even this whole conversation with Jokic and Embiid. Jokic is a phenomenal player. He won 2 MVPs in a row. And I had no issue with that, just like I had no issue with Embiid winning it this year. Like, now I will say this. I think what Kendrick Perkins says was stupid, ill-advised, and unwarranted. But I don't think he was a racist. I just think he was wrong, okay? Because, like, just you said the point. Like it's also an insult to all the voters. It wasn't even like Embiid won a close race. It wasn't even a close MVP race, right? And I would say this as well. How about the fact that Embiid's team won more games in a harder conference? Remember, they finished third in the East, and his record was better than Denver's in the West. And they had to play more of the better teams, right? Because Milwaukee and Boston were better than the teams in the West, and they had to play those teams more. So he won it. I think he was well deserving. He's a dominant player, as is Jokic. My hope would be that maybe they get to see each other in the finals, because that could very well likely happen with the path that both these teams are on right now.
You're in a unique, I want to go back to the player thing. You're in a unique situation because you played and your son's playing. And so here's what hit me. You may not remember this name. There was a kid that played at Kentucky named Charles Hurt. Do you remember that name?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I do.
Okay. Charles Hurt was like the biggest, strongest, he played with Bowie. And I remember guarding Charles Hurt going, son of a bitch, is this guy big? And all right. So I'm doing a game and I'm interviewing a kid named Lamar Stevens who plays in the NBA. He's a good player at Penn State. And I went back and I looked, it just hit me, Greg. It hit me like, I think this guy's bigger than Charles Hurt. And nobody even knows it. So I went back and looked at a picture of Charles Hurt and I looked at a picture of Lamar Stevens. Stevens was so much bigger. My point is, so you've got a son now and all these guys that work out like crazy people, eat right. Their bodies are bigger than Charles Hurt's or whoever the hell it was back in the day. They just are, and that adds to it because, again, I'm a little older, but lifting weights, worry about your jump shot, all that kind of crap.
Listen, you hit it on the head. Listen, I remember in college, my coach, Jerry Tarkanian, the late, great Jerry Tarkanian, he didn't even like stretching. He felt that stretching was the reason that guys were getting injured. Like, literally. It's just evolution. It's not, again, and I try to explain, it's not to take away from prior players. Like, they were the best of their generation, and they were the best that we had seen at that time. I even go back and remind people, the great Bill Russell, 11 championships, right? As dominant a player in his era as we've ever seen. You know that Bill Russell never shot 50% from the field one season in his entire career. Now, keep this in mind. He never shot the ball outside of the paint. He didn't shoot jump shots. Every shot he shot was in the paint. And he never shot 50%. Now, does that mean he wasn't what he was? Because relative to everybody else, he was still the best player. He just was. He was the most dominant force we had seen up until that point. And he went against, obviously, a great Wilt Chamberlain. So, the game has just evolved. And just because your mind from 20, 30 years ago reflects that, oh, man, that was the best. Like, that was the best of the game. Michael was phenomenal. And people will always point to the 6 championships, but I will remind people, listen, when Michael had to play super teams, he didn't beat super teams. Michael played in the NBA Finals against one team that had at least 2 Hall of Famers, and that was the Utah Jazz. He beat the Phoenix Suns. They had 1 Hall of Famer. He beat the Portland Trailblazers. They had 1 Hall of Famer. Who else did he beat? He beat the Seattle Supersonics. They had 1 Hall of Famer. And again, he doesn't diminish the Lakers. Accomplished. Pardon?
He beat the Lakers.
And he beat the Lakers after Kareem had retired. And that was a year where it was, I think Worthy was hurt. Magic was still on that team. That's still a good team, but that wasn't a super team. That team wasn't even the best team in the Western Conference that year. They upset the Trailblazers that year, who had won, I think, 63 games or something like that. And again, not to diminish Michael, I played against Michael. He was that guy. He was an incredible player, unbelievable talent. But we just had this conversation now. Steph Curry has become, in my estimation, the greatest point guard to ever play. And the retort I get from people is, well, how many assists does he have? Well, if you go look at the best guards in our league today, the game's evolved. They all score. Damian Lillard scores. James Harden, who's led the league in assists this past year, has led the league in scoring 3 times. You know, it's an evolution. The game's just changed. The three-point shot has changed it. And I heard you make the point about what Golden State took 53 threes the other night, and it was too many. And I don't disagree. But you know why they took 53 threes? Because of Anthony Davis. Because if you watch that game, they couldn't get to the rim. And so what happens is that even though he may have only blocked the 4 shots, he alters and deters so many more. He literally changed the way they would typically play. I don't think Golden State had taken 53s in any other game in the postseason. And a lot of that had to do with the strategy and the style and the personnel that the Lakers featured. So, again, it's a three-point shot is important. It's also important because guys shoot it at a much higher level. You know, if you go back and look at stats back in 79, 80, when the Lakers, I think they played the Celtics in the championship. I think it was a 6-game series. I think there were a total of maybe 14 three-point shots attempted in the entire series. And I think only 3 were made. But it was a ridiculously low percentage in terms of makes. And this speaks also to just the evolution of the game. I think the game's a prettier game to watch today because they do use so much more the court. They're not wrestling. You know, when you play and I play, it was as much about just being tough as it was skill. Because you could maul guys. You could grab, you could hold. There was no freedom of movement. But Dan, you know this. The game is about flow. The best teams to watch were those Indiana teams, the Carolina teams back when you played, where there was a motion offense and guys could cut back door. That's why Golden State's so successful. They're not the most talented team. They have really high IQs, and they make your defense uncomfortable, right? Because they cut you up. They screen all over the court. They have a collective high basketball IQ. And so that's what we're watching. And that's what I wish people would appreciate more. These guys are the best to ever play relative to who they're playing against and how the game is played. And it's no different than in football, baseball, or hockey. All these guys have just gotten better. They play longer. Think about LeBron James. He's in year 20. He's in year 20 on a team that could absolutely win a championship. Come on, man. Like, let's be realistic. Steph Curry's 35 years old. When guys were 35 in my era, great players, all-time great players. Akeem Olajuwon was a backup for the Toronto Raptors towards the end of his career, averaging about 8 points. Think about that. At 35. Unreal.
Hey, I want to, you famously, and I don't know how it happened, but you famously, this is what I remember about you, Greg. Did you not play with your mouth wired shut?
Yes, I did. So the year we won the championship, might have been midway through the season, I went up for a layup, got my legs taken out, and I couldn't get my hands down in time to break the fall. So, you know, what all smart guys do, I used my face. And ended up breaking my jaw in 2 places and my chin. And I'll be honest, it knocked me out. And I thought my career was over. I thought that was going to be the end of it that year. I was, had to have surgery. Got wired up and played the entire rest of the season. Now, I played at 190, 91 pounds. That was my playing weight. When we tipped off for the national championship game, I weighed 169 pounds because I could only eat through a straw. And it was tough. But I remember when it happened, I said to myself, man, if you can somehow get through this, you'll be able to look back on this and laugh. Right. And that was my motivation. And that's what happened. It was awesome. I mean, it was like a storybook ending, right? To be able to go through all that and us win a national championship was a pretty awesome experience, especially for me, because I was a local guy. I was born and raised in Las Vegas. And to be able to play for my hometown team, for the guy and Jerry Tarkanian, I grew up thinking he was like the GOAT, right? He was the best thing that ever happened to our city. Yeah. And so, yeah, it was a miserable experience, but one that I would never trade.
I was talking to Isaiah about this about 6 months ago, and he made the point. He said, he said, it's better basketball. He said, but guards today don't have to worry about what you just described. going to the rim. You know, Karl Malone almost killed Isaiah with the elbow, that kind of thing. Yeah. Rambis, we've seen Lane Beer. You know, do you think that adds to the flow? That adds, like Steph Curry walks to the rim and makes tough shots, but back in the day, he'd have made one of those and Lane Beer would have laid him out, or you know, Ricky Horn would have laid him out. What do you think of that, since you dealt with that?
Oh, well, listen, there's absolute truth to that. But all I'd say is go look at football. What's happened with the quarterback? You can't touch him now, right? You can't do to the quarterback what you used to be able to do to it. Why? Because the business of the game has gotten so big and the investment in these athletes is so large that you're trying to protect and preserve your investment. And so I completely get it. Listen, Tom Brady couldn't play to 45 20, 30 years ago. You wouldn't be, clamoring all over trying to get Aaron Rodgers at age 39 if he had to play in the rules that the game was played under 30 years ago. And so it's just, again, it's evolution. I'd much prefer watching the game the way it's played today than how we played it, where the scores are in the 80s. It's more about skill now as opposed to just physical will. And I've said this, there are a lot of truly, really good basketball players that played in my era that couldn't play today. They just wouldn't be able to, because even the guys now that are physical players and your enforcers, if you will, look at Draymond Green's a perfect example. He's a modern day Dennis Rodman. But Dennis Rodman couldn't make the offensive basketball plays that Draymond makes, right? Because Dennis couldn't play 35, 38 feet from the basket. Dennis wasn't bringing the ball up. And the argument is, if he played in this era, he'd be this. I was like, you know what? You could make that argument, but he didn't play in this era. We can only base it on the player you were. And it's not to take Dennis Rodman's in the Hall of Fame, and deservedly so, just like Draymond Green's going to be in the Hall of Fame. Because in their era, they're phenomenal basketball players. And I just don't know in what capacity, when we're talking about sport, that you could sit here and say, oh, man, it was a better game 40 years ago, 30 years ago. You're kidding yourself. You just are. And doesn't mean, again, that those guys, Isaiah Thomas is one of my favorite players and a great friend of all time. But I said it the other day, Steph Curry has now surpassed him as the best small guard to ever play the game. He just has. I mean, he's got twice the championships. He's got 2 MVPs. He's got a finals MVP. He's also changed the game, right? You talked about it with Steve Alford. He made 7 threes in that game. Remember, that was at 19 feet, 9 inches too, right? These guys are shooting the ball consistently from 30, 34, 35 feet. And they're not just catching it and shooting it. They're doing it off the dribble. They're step backing. They're sidestepping. Like, if you watch the game, if you took away any biases and you took a game from 1988 and you watched it in totality and you put it up in a game today or when LeBron James is in his prime, you're going to tell me that those guys were better than the guys you're watching now. I would have to have you drug tested. I just would.
I would give you a cup and say, go into a room and get something done.
Go take a piss. Go take a piss. And I might have to watch you because, nowadays somebody might go in there and try to take it for you. So.
Yes. You mentioned the word enforcer, and I don't know. I know you played in Portland. In the 70s, there was an article in Sports Illustrated. The cover picture was Maurice Lucas with his fists up, right? And every team had an enforcer. So I went back because I totally agree with everything you're saying. Do you know how big Maurice Lucas was?
I think he was 6'8", maybe 225, 230, maybe.
6'8", 215. Now, I'm thinking to myself, 6'8", 215, you're a small off guard. You ain't enforcing nothing in this day and age.
Shooting guard. You'd have to be a skilled player to play today. 6'8", 215. Just for perspective, LeBron 6'9", 265. He's played at 275. He's as big as Karl Malone. And these are guys now playing on the perimeter, to your point. Like, the game has just evolved. Like, I remember, I'm a football nut, right? I'm a diehard Steelers fan. So I remember how fierce and vicious their defense was in the 70s, the Steel Curtain. Man, you go look at how Jack Ham, Hall of Fame, at one of the great. Jack Ham was 212, terrorizing people at 212. That's a cornerback today. Like, like guys that play that position now, they're 6'4", they're 260, running a 4.4. And they have every bit the advantage of training, coaching. The game is now year round. So you're putting far more and investing far more in the game in all of sports. And so it's just a little disingenuous. That's the beauty of sports, though, because the generation is going to be defined by young people. It's not going to be defined. That's why nobody has Bill Russell as the greatest player ever, right? Even though you could make the argument he's won the most, right? But people don't want to talk about the fact, well, there were only 9 teams back then. Guys back then they had jobs in the off season. So the game has evolved, and it's because of those guys it's evolved. And it doesn't take away from their brilliance or their greatness, because they were. Bob Cousy, one of the founders of the no-look pass, the behind-the-back pass, and he was a phenomenal player. Bob Cousy never shot 40% from the field in his entire career, not one season. And so that's why our rebound numbers were so big back then, Dan. I mean, hell, if you missing 60% of the shots, what's that mean? That means more rebounds. That's why the numbers were higher.
Right.
I mean, my goodness. But again, it doesn't mean that Bob Cousy wasn't what he is. He's a Hall of Famer. He's one of the greatest to ever play the game. I salute that man. I love what he did for our game. But that doesn't mean he's as good as these guys playing today. Let's stop kidding ourselves. That's not even worth arguing over. Let's just enjoy and appreciate what we're seeing today. And our game has never really been any more popular than it is today. Our ratings are through the roof. People are excited. They're getting an opportunity to see the very best players perform on the biggest stage. And thus far, I think as a basketball fan, I've been rewarded with the opportunity to watch these guys play.
I agree. I mean, if the only people, there really is no argument against it except for, there he is, the enforcers. I mean, geez, he's got a hit in the neck, but I mean, that's a guard in today's, we're showing the enforcers. Hey, Greg, I know you got to run. I appreciate you, man. That was a lot of fun. Good luck to your son, Cole.
Thank you, man, and continued success, and we'll definitely be keeping up with you, Dan. Be safe.
Thanks, Greg. That's the great Greg Anthony. Played in college with a frickin' mouth wired shut. Why don't you think about that for just a second? Be right back.
Welcome into OutKick the show. I am Clay Travis, your fearless leader. I am going to continue to argue that sports is one of the great unifying forces in all of American life. ESPN is a sinking ship. Democrats are now the party of the white, woke college graduate.
We live in a land of participation trophies.
You gotta lean into the turns. You really gotta lean into the turns.
When Leah Thomas walked in that first day, it got silent, and every girl was uncomfortable.
Very difficult to go back-to-back years in the NFL with the #1 overall pick.
I've been out of LA long enough to have forgotten that libs, no matter how ridiculous the scenario, are gonna lib. Another week of inflation, another week with Biden with COVID, and another set of losers to crown. People don't watch the WNBA on TV, in person, on a plane, on a train, on a bus, or on purpose.
The scary thing, Tommy, is in the history of this government, I've never seen them give anything back that they've taken.
Oh no, they never do.
And they won't.
We've seen coaches throw water bottles. We've seen coaches act like idiots. We've seen coaches slap other coaches. But I think if you're involved in carjacking, you're inherently a rotten human being. The level of stupid that sometimes gets on our YouTube chat just gives me a headache. You're born a male, play with males. You're born a female, play with females. Don't at me about it, people.
I believe this person is the greatest player anybody alive will ever see. How can you hate Derek Jeter? A guy's on-base percentage tells me his batting eye, and a guy's slugging percentage tells me if he's a threat. That's the kind of guy that throws a no-hitter, that effectively wild guy.
You guys ready? Oh. Look, whether you like the NBA or not, that was fantastic stuff with Greg Anthony. Anheuser-Busch. I told you, my boy KC, Kevin Custer, went to whatever the stadium's called in Washington, D.C., did not have a beer because, well, it was all Anheuser-Busch products. I am looking all 100% local. That's all I am looking at. I am not drinking Anheuser-Busch, or I am not drinking bigger national brands this summer. I'm going all beer on the lake all summer. That is local. Local only for me. My local, and I wanted to wear it today, is Moondrops Distillery right over here in Fortville, 738 West Broadway. They've got great vodkas. I'm doing local. Seriously, Anheuser-Busch can kiss my backside. I don't care. It's down 26%. The stock price is down only 3%. Should be more. But here's what Anheuser-Busch has done. They've bent over backwards to apologize to the American people. They put out countrified, ads. And we're not having it. When you mock women, when you bring Dylan Mulvaney, and I don't understand how people aren't doing the same thing with Nike, but when you mock women, you should not be someone that we support. I am not doing it. So what did Anheuser-Busch do? They gave free cases to their employees as another way of apologizing. How about just saying, hey, look, we went out of our realm. We advertised a person that mocks women. We can't believe we did it. We were stupid for doing it. We apologize to the American people, and we are going to make this right with 20% off all of our beers for the next week. Because Anheuser-Busch, for the first time ever, Bud Light is going to fall behind, I believe, Modelo Especial in the world of beer sales. And good, they should. I don't give a damn if everybody in the world decides to accept Anheuser-Busch's apology and giving free cases to employees. I'm not. I think it is garbage to threat on women. I think it is crap. I think we should celebrate women. I think it's time we celebrate women. I think it's absolute garbage. And I think men should be at the forefront of defending, helping women. Period. No ifs, no ands, no buts. Women don't need our help, but we need to give our help. Let's put it that way. Period. And I get fired up about it because, well, quite frankly, no amount of putting chicken fried or whatever the hell Zach Brown song in an ad is going to do it for me. You kiss my ass with that. I don't give a damn who anybody is having sex with, but don't keep throwing it in my face, mocking women. It ain't happening. Steve Levy is one of the best people that I met at ESPN. I loved my time at ESPN, not because of ESPN. ESPN's an entity, not because of the suits, but because of the people. Benetti, Tirico, Steve Levy, fantastic. Scotty Van Pelt, Stanford Steve, the Bear, great dudes. Loved them. Love them. Had a blast when I would sit at halftimes with Steve Levy. Steve Levy's been there like 30 years, and he again gets kicked to the curb. He was the number 2 guy on Monday Night Football. And for whatever the reason, see, Chris Fowler, I think, is a bit of a snake. Chris Fowler is one of those guys that thinks he's smarter than he is. I remember when I first got there, one of the high-profile guys said, hey, you ever work with Fowler? I said, no. He goes, he hates analysts. He thinks he knows it all. And I've never been a fan. And I can tell that Chris Fowler is doing things in contract negotiations that hurt other people, and it's crap. Chris Fowler's got a nice place at ESPN. He's the #1 college football announcer, whether it is national championships or the biggest game with Herbie on Saturday nights. All of a sudden, Chris Fowler becomes the #2 Monday night football guy, and that's crap. At some point, and this is ESPN, we talk about different things. We talk about racism, we talk about that kind of stuff. But the lack of loyalty at ESPN disturbs me. Chris Fowler gets a hell of a lot of good things. Chris Fowler gets the tennis. Chris Fowler gets the football. But I don't need Chris Fowler again. He's not that good. Nobody turns into anything to say, hey, look, I wonder what Chris Fowler thinks about it. Or if I'm watching a game, no one says, well, Chris Fowler's doing the game. But I tell you what, I do for Levy because Levy's interesting, he's fun, and he's funny. Chris Fowler is exactly that face right there. That's Chris Fowler face. And I don't need it in my life. And it's crap. Hey, Vegas, Oakland A's, Nashville, trying like crazy for a Major League Baseball franchise. And you got to add Orlando into the mix. The great city of Orlando has proposed a $1.7 billion stadium in hopes of bringing MLB to the great state of Florida. Interesting. You know, when you look at it, I don't know who should have a team. I do think Vegas should be first. Other than that, I don't know. Maybe Nashville's a great baseball city. The Nashville Sounds have been one of the leading minor league baseball teams for as long as I can remember. In fact, in 1982, when Indiana, with me as a freshman, went to Vanderbilt to play in the NCAA tournament, we got a gift bag, and it included a Nashville Sounds hat that I wore proudly around the campus of Indiana University, along with my Gary Country Club hat. So I don't know whether or not Indiana or these teams, but it sure seems like for a sport that's dying, teams are putting big-time investments, as Vegas is, buying property off the Strip, as Orlando is, as Nashville is, to get a Major League Baseball team. Obviously, here in the great state of Indiana, we would love to have a Major League Baseball team. The minor league baseball franchise here thrives. A beautiful stadium downtown. And guess what? I don't think we can get a Major League team because you got 2 teams in Chicago over here, and you got a team in Cincinnati right over here, and a team 3 or 4 hours away in St. Louis over here. It's crazy. It's cray-cray. It's nuts. It's nutty. Danny Cannell said this earlier today on Twitter. Will you all stop writing love letters to the school that you are quitting on? You know what I mean? Will you please stop writing love letters, if you don't mind, to teams or to school that you are quitting on? The latest is Hunter Dickinson. Hunter Dickinson is acting like he's a wheel. Hunter Dickinson is acting like we're all supposed to really care about Hunter Dickinson. Hunter Dickinson is quitting on his team. And don't at me about it. A lot of people say, well, your son transferred. Well, the team quit on my son. The team said, look, we're not giving you a scholarship. We get you a 5th year so you can transfer. There you go. Anyway, long story short. So Hunter Dickinson decides that he's going to do one of these things, and that is we are going to, oh my God, write a love letter to the school and to the team that he quit. And I don't care whether anybody likes this or not. That's just the way it is. Quit. Quit on his school. Quit on his coaches. Quit on his, quote, brothers. Quit. The initial decision for me to enter the portal was the hardest decision I've ever had to make. The thought of potentially leaving the place I love and called home for 3 years wasn't as extraordinary difficult. After conversations with my family, lots of time and thought, I realized entering the portal was the best decision for me. Before I announce tomorrow where I'll be attending, I wanted to take the time to say thank you. Shut up. Just shut up. Before I announce tomorrow, because, well, I'm a big deal. I mean, I'm so good, my team didn't make the NCAA tournament. That's how good I am. But, of course, it isn't Hunter Dickinson's fault. It's never the fault of the player. It's the fault of the coach. Dickinson has been very vocal about, well, Juwan Howard highlighting his son. I guess his name is Jed or Jeff, something like that. So Dickinson's feelings got hurt. And now when his feelings got hurt, we're all supposed to say, well, it's so great, Hunter. Yeah, you got your degree. Great. You didn't pay a dime for it. You should get your degree. Hell, you go to summer school every summer. I mean, good for you. And certainly you have the right to transfer. I got no problem with that. But I'm officially tired of two things in the world of college basketball. I'm tired of the blessed to receive an offer from Indiana Wesleyan. Shut up. Shut up. And the second thing is, no matter where I decide to go, I will always think of myself as a Michigan man. See, if I were a Michigan man, this is the way I thought of guys that quit Indiana, except for Marty Simmons. Yeah, you're a quitter. Yeah, you quit. What do you want me to say? You quit. What about coaches that leave? Yeah, well, that's a business. Yeah, I don't care. Then, you know. What about coaches? What about Trump? Yeah, I don't care either way. I honestly don't care. But players are giving me gas. Players are tiring me out because I know the deal. Look, a lot of coaches do it. It's a financial decision, and maybe it is for Dickinson. I don't care. I'm tired of it with players. You can have your opinion, and good for you. Maybe you're not tired of it with players. Personally, I'm tired of it with players. I've had enough of players. I don't want to hear from players. I don't need to hear from players. I don't want to hear how Hunter Dickinson is a Michigan man. The best interview I ever did about this was back, 4 or 5 years ago with Matt Painter when he had a kid named Joel Eastern and Matt Harms quit. He was awesome, Painter was. He goes, they're not Boilermakers. They quit. They left. One kid, Eastern, had an idiot mother who thought he was going to the NBA, and the other guy, Harms, got incredibly bad advice, left Purdue, went to BYU, ran up and down the court a little bit, and did nothing. While the next guy at Purdue became Isaac Haas and became, I don't even know what Isaac Haas has become. I'm Tommy Tough Guy because I'm a man. I'm a 60-year-old has-been. I am Danny Tough Guy. I am. Luke Recker did not like Knight personally. Get out of here with that. It was so much deeper with Luke Recker and his mommy and his daddy living in Iowa. Get out of here. Get out of here with all that. All right, when we come back, Dibble and I may throw hands because I love the new rules. I love shortened baseball. I was talking to Benetti, who's going to join us next week. I was talking to Benetti, and Benetti's like, I can't believe how quick we're getting out of here. He goes, not like I got anywhere to go, but the game just flows, and all of a sudden, Major League Baseball, you're in the 5th inning, and it's glorious. It's beautiful. Be right back.
Yeah, folks, we are still talking about Bud Light, and here's why. The apology from Anheuser-Busch CEO Brendan Whitworth late last week wasn't a freaking apology. I'm not going to read the whole statement because, quite frankly, it's tone deaf and skirts the entire point, which leads me to believe this woman may have written it. But basically, CEO Brendan Whitworth said the company never intended to divide people, peace, love, inclusion, blah, blah, blah. Let's go, Brendan. You missed the whole point. And it's really so simple. Acknowledge that the partnership with a man who puts on a prom dress and pretends to be a teenage girl was a really stupid marketing move, and it pissed off your actual customers. It's that simple. But this apology, or lack thereof, has divided even the conservative community, with a very unlikely voice coming to Bud Light's defense, Don Jr.
Anheuser-Busch totally shit the bed with this Dylan Mulvaney thing. I'm not, though, for destroying an American and iconic company for something like this. Trust me, the memes have been so good, I'm sitting there chomping that, like, I want it. But like when I actually look into it, I'm not going to blame the whole company for the inaction or the stupidity of someone in a marketing campaign that got woke as hell. The company itself doesn't participate in the same leftist nonsense as the other big conglomerates. Frankly, they don't participate in the same woke garbage that other people in the beer industry actually do, who are significantly worse offenders when I looked into it. They'd be one of the more conservative-leaning companies in America. So they've been put on notice. I'm leaving them alone. I think you should probably do the same. If they do it again, they've been warned. But in the grand scheme of things, man, Anheuser-Busch, a lot less woke than the rest of corporate America. So I don't know that we want to kill the guys that are the least of the offenders.
So Don's perspective is that the Anheuser-Busch brand and family has been pretty good to Republicans over the years, so we should cut them some slack. I disagree.
Yeah, I've had such a great day today, and I got to ask right now, I don't even care. This probably embarrasses him. I don't care. He's far enough away that he can't beat my ass. Rob Dibble joins. Why are you not in the Reds Hall of Fame? I've given this some thought since we talked at the end of the NCAA tournament, and I'm pissed. I am. I'm legitimately pissed. I got a bunch of Reds fans. I've asked them all, and they're like, I thought he was. Everybody thinks you are. It's crap.
Hey, we were there last night. The Right Society was at the Hall of Fame. Randy, Norm, and I are in Cincinnati till I think Sunday, and so we got to speak to a room full of people yesterday. So I was in the Hall of Fame for a couple hours yesterday.
I think most people just assume you cannot tell the story of the Cincinnati Reds without the Big Red Machine, Eric Davis, no question, the Nasty Boy. You cannot. You freaking can't do it. You can't tell the full story, and that's what Hall of Fames are they not?
Yeah, they're museums. I'm a museum piece, as old as I am now. Listen, they've got a really nice deal. They just renovated it, spent millions of dollars. It rivals Cooperstown as Hall of Fames go. The Reds Hall of Fame's amazing. So many pieces from the Negro Leagues to when women played the major leagues during World War II, all the way up to today's Reds, and they've done an amazing job. So there's a great part of the Reds Hall of Fame that has the Nasty Boys and Randy Norman. But it was a great team. I mean, it wasn't just us, and it certainly wasn't just me. So, I mean, as long as there's a piece of me in there, I'm more than proud to be a part of it.
I know, and that's a great answer. That is such an un-Dibble-like, politically correct, patriotic answer. That's such an answer. All right, I'm for it. I'll move along. I'm going to disagree with you. I love the new pitch clock. I love baseball right now. I'm loving the shortened game. It's not a shortened game. I love more activity in the shortened space. I'm all in on the pitch clock, Dibs.
Well, I mean, there's pros and cons to it. The problem I have now is not with the pitchers. Other than I saw Urquidy, I was watching that Astros game, and some guys I don't think, Dan, need to be like doing rapid fire pitching, and some guys need a little bit to make sure mechanically that they're fine. And the kid hurt something in his armpit. I mean, I don't want guys getting hurt. I certainly don't want hitters being stressed out, not being allowed enough time to get in the box and get prepared. That's something that is part of the game. But it's, to me, it's speeding up the game. I don't know how much more action that it's putting into the game. I still see guys overswinging with 2 strikes. I see a lot of guys that fundamentally can't lay down bunts, can't hit sacrifice flies. I mean, hopefully that'll come around. But for the most part, some of the new rules work. I hate that you can only throw over to first twice. That's insane. That rule has to change. You can't just basically say after I throw over twice, go steal second base. That's not baseball. There's reasons for me to hold you at first base. Can you imagine late 80s, Dan, early 90s, I'm pitching against the Cardinals, and I got Willie McGee, Vince Coleman, Ozzie Smith, all these speed demons, that are on first base, and I can only throw over twice, and they can steal second and third, like at will. You couldn't beat the Cardinals in the 80s. They were too fast. You couldn't beat the Royals in the 80s. They were too fast. So, there's strategy involved to holding guys. I was always taught, there's a guy on first, he's getting an extra step off. The guy's getting an extra step, throw over there just to try to wear him out a few times. So, there's certain things that But, with Rob Manfred's way of thinking, we want the game to be more offensive. We want more action. I want more action. I'm a pitcher. I want more runs scored. It makes my job easier if I could come in and hold an 8-run lead instead of a 1-run lead. So, there's, he's got to start compromising on some of these ridiculous rules that he's just implementing. So the pitch clock is great. Big bases are great. But some of the things that involve the pitchers is ludicrous. The whole thing with Scherzer, Scherzer's washing his hands off. If anybody that knows baseball, and I was sitting with Norm Charlton and Randy Myers last night, we were talking about this with the people we were speaking with. You put alcohol and rosin together, that's better than any, spider tack you can invent. I can hold the ball and not drop it after putting alcohol and rosin on my hand. And David Cohn demonstrated that. So these are people that don't know baseball. And, to implement some of these rules, like the throwing over twice, you can steal second, or the washing your hands with alcohol when they think your hands are too tacky. Some of this stuff, you actually need to get some baseball people involved.
I got to ask you, you played for the White Sox. Jerry Reinsdorf has owned the White Sox. The White Sox were supposed to be good. They appear to be a mess. I want to get into this a little bit. Here's kind of the litany. Reinsdorf says, second, third, fourth, fifth place, that's not a failure. Rick Hahn has to answer for guys not hustling. Obviously, the manager does. Steve Stone calls basically Lance Lynn fat, and Lynn MFs him privately, I found out. When you're a player and all of this is going on, what's it like inside the clubhouse? Because, Chicago has a couple newspapers, so it's every day. Sports talk is big there. It's every day. They've won 3 in a row, so that's good, but they've been getting their brains. What's it like with all this stuff outside in the clubhouse?
Well, it's not baseball related. It's distractions, making fat shaming a guy that just has that type of body. Listen, one of the greatest strike throwers I ever saw was David Wells. Was David pretty? No. Was I pretty? Listen, I just dropped 25 pounds because at my age, I can't carry around 260 anymore. I need to be 230. So, to say things like that and demean people just because you're losing games, it's ridiculous. It's baseball. If you heard Brian Cashman yesterday, he's like, hey, don't quit on us. Stick with us. We got a shot to still be a wild card team. I agree with him. It's 1 month of the season. You got 5 more months. So, the White Sox have some injuries. They're not as healthy as they're going to be in a couple of months. And once they get to almost full strength, I think they'll be fine. But, you can't lose Abreu and some of these other guys and expect to have the same offensive output. Not Tim Duncan. Tim Anderson was hurt for a little bit.
Anderson.
You lose guys like that, you're not going to be the same team. You're not going to be defensively the same team. And so in the clubhouse, you just want to focus on coming to work every day, getting prepared for whoever you're playing that day. You've got, analytics people are involved. You've got pitchers meetings, you got hitters meetings, you got all the stuff you got to take care of. You don't need your broadcaster saying stuff about you. And you certainly don't need people saying sell the team. That's insane. Do these people know how much money these teams are worth now? Do you know how much money these owners bring in? They're not going to sell the team. And so, and Jerry, trust me, my former agent, Dennis Gilbert, still works for the White Sox. They have great scouting, great evaluators. Nobody wants to suck, Dan. Nobody wants to go out there and lose. So I think the White Sox will be fine. They're actually coming to Cincinnati this week. We'll be at the game tomorrow. If you want to see the Nasty Boys, we'll be at the Reds White Sox tomorrow. But, it's just baseball. It's a game. And at the end of the day, these guys, they're business-like, they're routine-like, they're creatures of habit. And when you throw them out because you're answering questions about stuff that has nothing to do with playing, that's going to be something that disrupts the clubhouse.
Do guys, basketball, it's never one guy. It's always one guy recruiting another guy to bitch and moan. Baseball, you got, 25, 20, whatever guys in there. And then somebody that's disgruntled reads something, he grabs another guy, hey, did you see this? This is true, blah, 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 blah. That's got to happen in a clubhouse, right?
Absolutely. Well, here's the toughest part. Today would be difficult Norman, Randy, and I, we kind of joke about it. It would have been tough for me to play in today's game. Social media, the way we used to do things off the field. If everybody had a camera and they were filming us, a lot of times, honestly, I'll take for instance, St. Louis. There's a hotel called the Adams Mark. We didn't stay there. We stayed right across the street from the ballpark in St. Louis. But we would meet up, 15 of us and 15 of the Cardinals after games, and we basically talk baseball. We're boring. You know baseball players. We talk way too much baseball. And so I think you don't have that in the game today because guys are afraid to be around the other players after games. They don't want to be seen out at a bar. I know a lot of guys, Derek Jeter and Albert Pujols and guys like that would never take a picture in a bar with a beer in their hand or something like that. Well, that casually back in the day, that's the way we acted. And so the game has changed that way. And I think a lot of today's players, when you're trying to focus on what your job is, and you listen to, it's not like in Cincinnati, your wife, your friends, everybody would hear what WLW was saying about you. Then they come back to you and tell you, or like you said, your teammates would tell you. Now it's instantaneous. People are bashing you on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram. And eventually as a human being, you're going to either be offended or it's going to emotionally take its toll on you. So I think it's brutal, the attacks that people do on human beings' characters now. Instead of like, even when I'm doing my talk show, I try to keep it like if it's basketball or hockey or baseball, that's it. I'm not going to talk about your personal life. I don't care about Trevor Bauer, what he does in the bedroom. If he's a jerk, he's a jerk. What he's doing to his teammates in Japan is stupid. And his teammate called him out on it. That should be end of story. But now we're going to continue the story for 2-3 weeks on something that should have already been nipped in the bud. So that's the difference in 2023 versus 1993, where we could stop things, police things, talk it out, and move on. People don't want to move on today, Dan. They just want to carry the story for weeks and weeks and weeks because if it's a slow news day in the 24-hour news cycle, we're going to keep talking about something that has nothing to do with what you're doing as a player.
Angels 17-14. Obviously, Ohtani and Trout. If healthy, is this the year we see the Angels in the postseason with those two guys? Don't
count on it. Don't count on it unless their pitching is fantastic in their bullpen. They're going to score a ton of runs. I worry about the Yankees and the Red Sox and their bullpens and their rotations. So listen, Ohtani, Trout, Rendon, some of their guys are amazing, but everybody's got to have great years. Thinking back even 33 years ago to our team, we were the type of team where guys didn't have 30 home run years. We didn't have any 20-game winners. We had some all-stars and future Hall of Famers, but at the same time, man, we were as close as you could possibly be. We were a family unit. Today's players are way more business-like. Their brands, their corporate names. So if they can become a family, if they can overtake the Astros, if you can overtake what the Rangers are doing right now, the Rangers have built a billion-dollar ball club. They have spent close to $1 billion the last couple of years. They score a ton of runs. They're one of the best run-scoring teams in baseball. So if you can overtake the Astros and the Rangers just in your own division, yeah, then I'll believe in the Angels.
Man, I went to see the Rangers play the Cubs, and I've never seen a worse team in my life. Second baseman gave it one of these on a hop. Right fielder and center fielder. I mean, it was and that was before I was drinking. So it was all happening right in front of me. So you like the Rangers. I'm stunned by this. And I got to ask you about the Cardinals. As a Cub fan, I've never seen the Cardinals 10-21. I've never seen this out of the Cardinals. What's going on there?
Not to get in the weeds with the manager, but what he said about Jordan Walker was wrong. This kid's going to be a great player in the major leagues. Again, talking about garbage things like his launch angle isn't big enough. He should be trying to drive more balls and hit home runs. How good was Carlos Marmol as a player? I look at guys and say, listen, this guy, can he be great for 10 or 15 years? That's the way I look at Jordan Walker. He's like an Acuna Jr. This kid is amazing. So, anything that you're critical about that could hurt somebody's confidence, you as a coach, think about this. You don't like a guy's shot, but the guy's still averaging 25 points a game. Are you going to say, you know what, he should go back to the minor leagues and work on his shot? Go back to the developmental league and work on his shot. I mean, I don't get it. So you fired a guy that knew what he was doing, and now you bring in a guy that's all analytics and all talking trash to 20-year-old guys. That's one of the reasons I think I don't like to get guys fired. But dude, if you're not going to say anything constructive and positive, don't say anything at all. Don't publicly ever shame players. Don't say anything negative. And if I'm Jordan Walker, I'm like, put me in a different organization then. I'll show you how good I can hit, and I'll show you how hard I can hit the ball. Just let me go somewhere else. And that's my thought on this is I tried never to embarrass the manager. The manager should never embarrass me. If you got a problem with me, call me in your office. We'll discuss it. But to go out there publicly and say his launch angle isn't good, he hits too many hard ground balls, dude, just stop. I mean, this is the world we live in where you can get away with saying stuff like that. And if I'm Jordan Walker, I'm sitting in the minor leagues going, dude, I'm in the wrong organization.
What from the other side of it, all right? What would the manager gain by doing what he did there? What's his thought process, Dibbs?
He's trying to motivate the kid. But the kid was hitting 274. That's better than half the teams in Major League Baseball that are hitting below 245. That we live in a time where, the game is already. Tom House is amazing, by the way. Anybody who doesn't follow Tom House and listen to Tom House talk about baseball, then you're missing some real good knowledge. But he talks about the game is set up for you to fail. And when you have some success, you need people to reinforce that. You need to enjoy the moments when you're successful playing baseball. And so, why you would say negative stuff to a kid that you want to go down and have a positive reaction, have a good attitude when he goes back to the minor leagues, I don't get it. I really don't get it. So, analytics is great. I think numbers are great in the game, but you still have the human element of you have to be positive. You have to reinforce positive things with the younger generation and these kids. I coach 18-year-olds. This kid's 20 years old. He's a couple years removed from high school. To make it seem like you're doing something wrong and you're one of the reasons we're losing at the major league. You lose as a team. You win as a team, you lose as a team. And so there's a lot of guys that are involved in this. You've got Goldschmidt on that team, Aaron Notto on that team. You have Adam Wainwright. You have some amazing veterans on the Cardinals. To pick out a 20-year-old just shows you don't know how to manage and coach people. You have to manage men. And so until you can look in the mirror and say, what I'm about to say publicly, I would want said about me, I keep my mouth shut.
All right, I can't let you go without my Cubs. Tucker Barnhart's a friend. He told me before the season, we got a bunch of veterans here that really want to be good. This is a different outfit. They're 15-15, which right now has me fired up. Cubs got a chance to hang in here in the NL?
Absolutely. That's a tough division. Dude, give some love to the Pirates. Pirates have played some great baseball through the first month of the season. I honestly hope it continues. And, bringing McCutchen back was a huge step. Putting some veterans on that team is huge. So, just like the Cubs, you get older players that have playoff experience, have some world championship rings. You put them in the clubhouse and you say, hey, guys, the Marcus Stromans and guys like that, these guys are hungry for winning championships. And as long as they can stay healthy in that division, the Brewers are going to have their ups and downs. The Reds, obviously, they're struggling. The Cardinals are struggling right now. You have to take advantage of that. The different mixed schedules, because you don't have to play the Cardinals 19 times a year anymore. You don't have to play the Brewers 19 times. Whatever teams you're playing out of the division and in the American League, you have to win 2 out of 3, 3 out of 4. So I think the Cubs have a real good chance to use the schedule and try to stay as healthy as possible. And they'll be right in it at the end. I mean, there's 5 more months. You've got 140 games left. That's a lot of baseball to be played.
I love talking to you because I feel like there's nothing I can throw at you baseball-wise, and you're not going to have a great take on it, man. I appreciate you coming on, my friend.
Dude, I appreciate you, Dan. You keep it real, and this country needs somebody like you to be out there, keeping it real all the time on a day-to-day basis. Thank you, buddy.
I appreciate it. Can we get Dibble in the Hall of Fame? Son of a bitch. Jeez, have a great day in Cincinnati, my friend.
You too, my brother. Take care.
Yeah, that's Rob Dibble. He's a best. You can talk about anything baseball, and he's got insight that really nobody else has. I just don't know. I legitimately was shocked about a year or two ago when I found out that Dibbs and Myers and Charlton were not in the Reds Hall of Fame. Like, this is a personal thing to me. Like, who is? Like, I get it. The Reds are one of the storied franchises. You go back. I get all that. I do. But, my God, world champions? They were baseball. They were the biggest story in baseball. The Nasty Boys changed the way the game was played. I mean, you had to get a 7th, 8th, 9th man. They did. Seriously, how don't you, I don't know. How don't you? I thank you, Michael. I agree. Our guests have been phenomenal this week. It's been a really good week. Our show, Dylan and Ryan and Aaron and everybody involved. We got a great team. There's an article on me in Barrett Sports Media that I just tweeted. And I got to tell you, one of the reasons I keep tweeting it is because I get the opportunity to talk about the team that we have here. I've always had great teammates. I've always tried to be a great teammate. Cal Knezovich, fantastic. Jimmy, great over on the other station when we were doing that. And, of course, I talk about all the time Tirico and Benetti and my producer, Bart Fox, my director, Scott Johnson, when we were at ESPN. And look, these are team efforts, and I thank you, Michael, for representing. I do. I thank you for representing what is going on here with our show. And we're trying really hard to give you the best morning show that we possibly can. We were talking about Hunter Dickinson a minute ago, the big kid from Michigan. And this is smart by Hunter Dickinson. Hunter Dickinson has committed to Bill Self and the Kansas Jayhawks. Let me tell you why this was smart. One, he's going to a basketball school. It's very weird at Michigan and Ohio State. My son was able to play at both. I thought because whenever we went in there at Indiana, Michigan was always packed. Whenever we went in there at Indiana, Ohio State was always packed. Came to find out that, well, it's not always packed. And they do at Michigan and they do at Ohio State what a lot of schools did, including us at Bowling Green. They really have to get out and sell kids on coming to games. The Maze Rage is a terrific student group, but they're not there every game. It's not sold out. The crowd doesn't show. The older people with season tickets don't show all the time. And you go from about half to 3/4 full every night. Same thing at Ohio State. Well, Kansas, Indiana, Connecticut, those type of schools, Michigan State you can throw in there. Obviously, Kentucky is in that mix, Duke, North Carolina. You're going to get 18,000 people for a practice if you open up a practice. I mean, that's what you're going to get. You're going to get that many people. You seriously are. I mean, and so Hunter Dickinson, that's number one. You go to a place where basketball is king. Maybe football has a good weekend or two. Maybe football gets off to a good start like they did, but it's a basketball place, and that's a big deal. Second thing, they use big guys. Remember David McCormick 2 years ago when they won a national championship? If I am a guy like Hunter Dickinson that has been a focal point of an offense, and I am leaving, I don't want to go to some place that's going to shoot 52 threes. I mean, I want to go to some place that's going to use big guys. And what does using big guys mean? Using big guys means, yes, you're going to go on the block. Yes, you're going to play mid-post. Dickinson can really pass the basketball. I just saw Aaron Rodgers on my TV. I thought football. Dickinson maybe can get out and shoot threes. Okay, great. Wonderful. But the fact of the matter is Hunter Dickinson made a really good choice. And I'm not so sure, and again, you can take this wherever you want, I'm not so certain. In this feeble little brain of mine, I am not so certain that the Juwan Howard experience is a great one here at Michigan. It's not been awful. It's been good enough. Don't get me wrong. It's been fine. And I'm not being critical of Juwan. I just know this. When you take over from a legend, which John Beilein is, then guess what? You get the residual effect of that, the discipline, the recruiting, the structure. You get it. And because college basketball and football are all encompassing. But then it wears off. We saw it with Mike Davis at Indiana. Mike Davis, terrific, man. He walked into the best, the most disciplined program there was. I'll be honest with you, Louis Orr took over for me, and he told publicly, he goes, this is the perfect program. He goes, honest to God. He goes, this is, everybody goes to class, everybody shows on time, everybody works hard, blah, 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 blah. And I told him when he came in, I go, look, you're going to win a championship here. I left you a laydown. In a couple years, it'll be a year, not next year, year after, it'll be a laydown, and you'll win, and he did. And then the Louis Orr stuff took over, and he's gone. It's just the way it is. And I mean, that sounds like bragging, but it's just simply the truth. I did not get into the Dibble Lou Piniella fight because I think it's old news. I do. I think it's old news, and my friend Tim Belcher was right in the middle of it, breaking it up. Belch, I haven't talked to Belch in a long time, but I love hanging out with Belch. Cashman, Cubs update. I want this out there. Plus 650 to win the NL Central at the start of the year, and Cashman was on that. All right. When we come back, I'm going to tell you again the parlay that I've got going for 110, and then I've got some awards coming up here that are insane. I mean, insane. I don't know what's going on with Twitter, but if those Twitter numbers are right, we're going to have our biggest day yet. I did sign up for the blue check mark because I got to tell you, this is my business. I want the world watching our shows, whether it is on OutKick.com, whether it is on YouTube, whether it is on Facebook, whether it is on Twitter. I don't care. I want the world watching our show because our show's great. I'm not going to lie to you. Our show is great. Last thing, and I'm going to send this to the boys so they can put it out. Our golf outing, 13th annual Horseshoe Indianapolis Tom Dakich Memorial Golf Outing presented by Gemco. That's right. We just put up the link. So get your foursome, Sean Black. I will take care of you. Get your foursome. We got 32 teams. Every dime is going to go to Dakich Cycles for the City. Every dime. And we're going to raise some money for kids. Be right back.
Welcome into OutKick the show. I am Clay Travis, your fearless leader. I am going to continue to argue that sports is one of the great unifying forces in all of American life. ESPN is a sinking ship. Democrats are now the party of the white, woke college graduate.
We live in a land of participation trophies.
You gotta lean into the turns. You really gotta lean into the turns.
When Leah Thomas walked in that first day, it got silent, and every girl was uncomfortable.
Very difficult to go back-to-back years in the NFL with the #1 overall pick.
I've been out of LA long enough to have forgotten that libs, no matter how ridiculous the scenario, are gonna lib. Another week of inflation, another week with Biden with COVID, and another set of losers to crown. People don't watch the WNBA on TV, in person, on a plane, on a train, on a bus, or on purpose.
The scary thing, Tommy, is in the history of this government, I've never seen them give anything back that they've taken.
Oh no, they never do.
And they won't.
We've seen coaches throw water bottles. We've seen coaches act like idiots. We've seen coaches slap other coaches. But I think if you're involved in carjacking, you're inherently a rotten human being. The level of stupid that sometimes gets on our YouTube chat just gives me a headache. You're born a male, play with males. You're born a female, play with females. Don't at me about it, people.
I believe this person is the greatest player anybody alive will ever see. How can you hate Derek Jeter? A guy's on-base percentage tells me his batting eye, and a guy's slugging percentage tells me if he's a threat. That's the kind of guy that throws a no-hitter, that effectively wild guy.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. What a great show today. Greg Anthony, if you missed our interview with him and Rob Dibble, I swear to God, you're not going to find a better interview. One, on the NBA and how good the players are, and two, on Major League Baseball and how much I absolutely, positively make no apologies for loving the new rule of speed up play. I don't get into the weeds on it. I just look at it and say, look, this is the length of time. We got this much fun going on in between as opposed to this much length of time with this much fun going on in between. So anyway, long story short, I am all in on it, period. All right, it is Thursday. It is 10:30. It is time, ladies and gentlemen, for the Don't At Me Awards, also known as the Damn Awards. Look at this video. A stroller with a baby inside, gets blown by the wind towards the street. Luckily, a hero catches up and saves the day. Let's take a look.
She fell.
Yeah, she fell. Whoa.
Yeah, and they can't get out because they heard like the whistle bad.
Oh, you are the man.
Yeah.
Lifesaver right there, man. Jeez. Yeah, like they say, perfect timing. At the right place at the right time. Jeez. See that? Crazy, huh?
Yeah. Really?
Man, like you're that lady, how terrifying is that? Seriously, you're looking, the stroller can't stop, you know it can't stop, and you see cars coming, and that's a busy road. But lady, you got to get up, man. I don't even want to get into that. I don't want to get into the lady. I don't want to get into her. I'm glad that everything worked out. I'm going to say that. I'm going to say I am glad that this worked out. But I could only imagine the terror, the absolute terror of this. I have a tendency to put myself in the position of the person that this horrible thing is happening to, and I could not imagine. I absolutely could not imagine. You know, there are a lot of things that happen in this world. And one of the things is, if you, and I'm doing it right now, I want to get this next story right. It's about a lady who ran over herself and got a ticket. Yeah, I couldn't think of this name award other than pure terror. Just pure terror. And when you Google lady runs over, the first thing that popped up in my Google search was lady runs over her husband 39 times. That's not what I was looking for. All right? That's not. That's no. I wasn't looking for that. The Self-Mutilation Award. So a New Jersey woman was issued a ticket. Now I want you to think about this. For driving an unregistered vehicle as she ran herself over. I don't think we have the video. She's 61. She had a 2014 Lincoln Continental. And she never put the car in park. So what she did was she tried to jump in front of the car. So in jumping in front of the car to stop the Lincoln Continental, which if you know anything about Lincoln Continentals, they're big cars, 2014, I don't know. My dad had one like 73, I don't know. It was a big old thing and I loved it. I was Pimp Daddy with the Detroit Lean, checking out the ladies as we were driving down Broadway from the McDonald's all the way down, I don't know, about 45th and Broadway and circled back. So she tried to stop the car, it rolled forward, she fell, and the car ran over the left side of her body. Now, the left side of her body did not stop the car. It then crashed into a 2016 Ford that was parked on the side of the road. So you got a visual here. Car's not in park. Oh, crap. I'm going to get in front of it. Oh, crap. I fall down pushing. Oh, crap. The car runs me over. Oh, crap. It runs into the side of another car. More crap. And next thing you know, she gets a ticket. She suffered serious yet non-life-threatening injuries and was taken to the hospital. She got a summons. They didn't say her name, but I guarantee you, because this never happens to hot housewives in Carmel, I guarantee you we know what she looks like, just a biggin. This I'll never understand. I don't understand. I won't understand, but this happened. McDonald's is always in the news lately. It seems like the biggins are always mad when they go to McDonald's and there ain't no ketchup for my fries, or my chicken nuggets are cold, or something is happening that is pissing me off. So guess what we got to do? We got to throw hands into McDonald's. But no, that is not what happened here. This is even dumber. A 10-year-old, listen, a 10-year-old, two 10-year-olds actually, in Kentucky, where all great things go to die, two 10-year-olds were found working unpaid at a McDonald's restaurant in Louisville. Two 10-year-olds, too often employees fail to follow child labor law. Here's what they did. The 10-year-olds were working as late as 2 a.m. unpaid at a McDonald's. Now look, I don't know, maybe, just maybe, they were kids of the people working there, but apparently more than 300 children have been working at McDonald's all across Kentucky. Bauer Food LLC, based in Louisville, apparently hires children as unpaid labor and makes them work ungodly hours. These guys prepared and distributed orders, cleaned the store, worked the drive-thru window, operated a register. One of them was allowed to work the deep fryer, which according to law, you're not supposed to be 16 years old. Think about this. As a 10-year-old, you can't work a deep fryer, but as a 10-year-old, you can get your pee-pee cut off. That don't make no sense. That does not make sense. Apparently, they were children of a night manager who were visiting their parent at work and were not approved. See, that's kind of what I thought. Look, but 300 kids across the country? My 10-year-old, he used to work basketball camp for me, but he was in charge of the candy. So we had candy because, well, I'm a health nut. And at the end of the day, we'd sell candy. The kids want a candy bar. Like my high school coach always told me before we went to practice, go get a candy bar. So we'd go to Market and get a candy bar. Practice was at 4. School was out at 3:20. We had time to walk over, grab a candy bar, and come back. It was all good. It's the only thing my 10-year-old did. I don't think I want him working in a McDonald's. I don't think so. Maybe I do. Maybe the kid should have worked in a McDonald's. Get ready for it. Yeah, get ready for it. You all may not like it, but it's coming. Live Soccer, a.k.a. Live Football, is coming. What does that mean? That means the Saudis have so much freaking money that the Saudis want to start a better Saudi soccer league in Saudi. Now, how do I know this? Listen to this. Lionel Messi, who by all accounts may or may not be as stupid, but I got to ask you. Lionel Messi, they're in talks. Listen to this number. $400 million a year. Now, I'm going to say that again. That's the big money damn award. $400 million a year to play soccer. You think the Saudis have some itch? Think the Saudis have some scratch? I do. That's per the Telegraph. That would make him the highest paid football player in the world. I would think that Well, $400 million is enough. I don't know that you got to play very long, but I also think that, well, frankly, I think it may come with some caveats that you don't necessarily want to do. And I could be wrong. All right, that brings me to this. Forbes magazine just came out with the top paid athletes in the world. Okay, let's see who it is. The world's top 10 athletes. Numero uno, Lionel Messi. There you go. Number one, total earnings, $130 million. On field, he makes $75. Off field, $55. LeBron James, $121.2 million. On court, $41.2. Off court, $80. That's pretty good. Cristiano Ronaldo, $115 million. On the pitch, $60. Off the pitch, $55. Neymar, $95 million. $70 million of it is on the pitch. $25 million off the pitch. Steph Curry comes in at number 5. This surprises me. $92.8 million. $45.8 is what he's paid to play basketball. I'm going to say that again. $45.8. Makes $47 off the field. Man, I just want you to think about that just for a second. Durant comes in 6 at $92.1 million, 42 of it on court, 50 off. What the hell does he do? Like, is Kevin Durant in is $50 million worth of ads? Like, if I saw Kevin Durant in an ad, I swear to God, I think I'd go the other way. I do. I think I would go like, all right, he's advertising for Fairlife. I guess it's milk right there. I'm going to another milk. Roger Federer, $90.7 million. Listen to this. Of the $90.7 million that Roger Federer made, listen to this, 90 of it was off the tennis court. 0.7 of it, I was going to say, that dude hadn't played. 700,000 of it on the tennis courts. Pretty good cash there. Canelo Alvarez made $90 million. Only $5 million of that was off the field. $85 million was in the ring. Tom Brady comes in at number 9. Tom Brady, $83.9 million. 31.9 of that was on the field. 52 million of that was off the field. Man. And then Giannis Antetokounmpo, basically he made 81 million. 40 million of it on, 41 million off. And I'm not going to lie, I have seen Giannis, at least in some commercials, and I got to tell you, to me, Giannis is a guy that I might say, hey, that seems like a reputable guy. That seems like a dude that I can get down with. Yeah, I think I could do that. Dan, here's a question about Saudi golf. If the PGA has 27 sponsors that are Saudi-backed, what's the difference with LIV Golf? Players from around the world are loving LIV. I agree. I totally agree. McDonald's stock up 22.13% this year. Look, that whole thing was a little bit misleading about McDonald's because, frankly, a lot of that was their parents. Look, I understand. Maybe they didn't have anybody to watch them. Maybe times are tough. Maybe times are tough. Maybe, you know what? The cost of a babysitter is expensive. And then when you add it on the cost of gas, your housing prices, your property tax, everything in this idiotic Biden administration going through the roof, hey, maybe it makes sense. I don't know. My parlay of the day, ladies and gentlemen. Write this down. Get a pen and paper. Write it down. Do it now. Don't be messing around. Right now, write it down. The parlay of the day, I'm taking the Mets and I'm taking Tampa Bay. The Mets got swept yesterday, and I'm not happy about it. The Mets, I don't care about. Actually, I am happy about it because there's no way they're losing again to the Detroit Tigers. There's no way. There's no way in hell. There's no chance. None. Zero. Zip. Nada. They're out. They're gone. Stop it. Done. All right. We are woken. We are doping. What do you got? What do you got for me? It appeared attempted to push someone onto the subway tracks. The Marine recognized this guy as a dangerous menace, took his violent threat seriously. Oh, yeah, this is insane. Hey, are they now, are they trying to charge this guy? Are they now saying that this guy who put this guy in a chokehold, I think they are, and I got to tell you, the level of stupid, like, are you not allowed to defend somebody that is being choked in the street, and next thing you know, we got a problem? I don't really get it. I don't understand it. Somebody please explain this to me. Please. Explain how this is possible. How is it possible? You know, one of the things that I don't understand about the world that we live in is why we're trying to live lawlessly. So it appears Jordan Neely had attempted to push someone onto the subway tracks a few days earlier. The Marine recognized this guy as a menace and took his violent acts seriously. This man jumped on me, grabbed my shoulders, pushed me towards the track Sunday night at this very station. I was able to run away. He got physical, chased other people standing on the platform between getting on an uptown train. It's so sad, and this guy, I think, is being charged. I'm not happy with this. Look, I don't understand the world that we're living in. I don't understand how we are protecting criminals. Jordan Neely's guy is in the right. Jordan Neely should be charged. Jordan Neely's a bad person. He's a hero. Why do we only think of him as a white dude? Why is a white dude always guilty? Why don't we judge? Why don't we judge people by the content of our character? Jordan Neely's a bad dude. Man, we'll see what happens. We'll see. The world is nuts to me. All right, what do we got next? This is awesome. This is so awesome. I spent $160,000 on leg lengthening surgery. It changed my sex life. I got to tell you, leg lengthening surgery is awesome. Why not? Seriously, why not? I couldn't only imagine how much that hurt. Like, I'm not sure I can imagine how much that hurt. Like, if you're going to listen to this. So here's this crazy person, all right? She's getting a leg up on the competition for dudes. Surgery has heightened this woman's modeling career. She starred, this lady, her name was Teresa Fischer. She starred on Germany's Celebrity Big Brother. She's undergone 2 surgeries. She's 31 years old. Listen to this. Listen to this surgery. And tell me if you want to get it. You ready? They inserted adjustable telescopic rods into her shin bones, adding an extra 5.5 inches to her height. The surgery cost $124,000. Medication, physical therapy made it cost $161,000, which she paid with her modeling checks. This is an increasingly popular operation. It costs between $70,000 and $150,000, depending on how many inches you want to grow, as well as thousands more in follow-up costs. The leg lengthening process is painful as hell. A doctor breaks the femur in each of the patient's legs and inserts extendable metal rods. The nails are generally extended over the next 3 months, so you put nails in there, making the recovered patient several inches taller. Oh, man. Relentless pain. It stretches nerves, muscles, and tissues of the legs. It's excruciating. Men looking for dates. Tech workers simply feel better about themselves. This lady now has 202,000 followers on TikTok, 145,000 followers on Instagram, and she's now happy and satisfied with her legs, but she is in a bit of awe at the hate that she has received. Well, my sex life is better. I'm more flexible with my legs and have more room to maneuver in the sack. God bless America. You look me in the eye right now and you tell me that this isn't the greatest, most innovative country in the world. You look me right in the eye right now and tell me that we aren't the country that worries about and does things about the stupidest crap ever. You look me in the eye and tell me that they're worried about this in the Middle East or in the Ukraine or right now in Russia. You look me in the eye, ladies and gentlemen, and you tell me that this isn't among the dumbest things you have ever heard. Now, you can also look me in the eye and say, Dan, you've been tall. What do you know about it? You've been tall. You don't know nothing. You don't know a damn thing. All right? Maybe not. A researcher known as the godfather of AI has decided that he is going to quit because he regrets his life's work. I want to talk about AI safety issues without having to worry about how it interacts with Google's business. This is Joffrey. We're going to say Joffrey Hinton to MIT Technology Reviews. It's one of those deals where I'm sure Joffrey et al. Said, you know what? I'm excited about the possibilities here. Let's go. And then, like the game War Games back in the 80s, where Matthew Broderick had to save the world from being blown up, it was like, wait a second, technology done gone too far. And this may not be as artificial as the A in AI indicates that it should be. I wonder when Joffrey had a holy crap moment. Holy crap, what have we done here? Holy crap, what doth happen here? Because that's the way you got to speak if your name is Joffrey. But anyway, AI is a real problem. In fact, I would argue that none of you know that I'm actually here. I could be a hologram. I could just be a mass of crap wielded together, put on in front of lights with a camera, and next thing you know, I am somebody. You don't know. Are we really living? I need to start doing mushrooms. Are we really living in a realm, or are we living in a state, in a place and time? I don't know. Lastly, if you are like me, probably have Penn stock. Penn is the owner of Barstool Sports. Ben Mitz is one of the stars, I guess, Mitzi. Apparently, Ben Mitz was doing a Ron Burgundy type thing. He was reading rap lyrics, and the N-word popped into the rap lyrics. Mitzi, as he's affectionately known, said the word. Apparently, immediately realized as a white dude, you can't say that, was apologetic, did all the things that you would hope folks would do. All right? Well, long story short, Barstool / Penn, who owns Barstool, fired Mitzi because, well, white dude says the N-word, you're going to get fired. Well, guess what? Dave Portnoy came out with a press conference where he talked into his phone. It was a good press conference. He explained his side. True or not, I don't know, but I'm going to take him at his word. Stock with Penn is down 8%, which is significant. Don't say the N-word, people. Read what you're supposed to read, will you please? Do you mind? I think it's important that you do. I think it's fun that you do. stuff. I think it's fun that you read things. You know, dudes want to do rap lyrics. That can be fun. That can be interesting. I got a group of old white guys that I played softball with. 2 of them are hip West Coast rappers, and they put lyrics on there. And that's great. Yay, Rah, go fight, win. But you know what? You don't really need to do the N-word. And we also need to be a little more tolerant of guys like Mitzi, who clearly didn't mean it in a vicious way, clearly didn't mean it in a nasty way, clearly didn't mean it angrily. He just was literally doing a Ron Burgundy moment. But Penn has people to answer to. Penn, you know what? Casinos and gambling is what Penn is about, and there are licenses there, and those licenses, according to Dave Portnoy, can be taken away very, very quickly. Look, let's be honest, groupthink range, we all know this. Groupthink is the deal. We all know that we are in a mode where if you say that, you're immediately going to get fired. Everybody's going to lose their mind. Maybe they should. I don't know. But it seems like in this case, a little empathy might be in order. But what do I know? That probably, once again, paints me as the dreaded R word because I say a guy just reading a rap lyric. Maybe there should be empathy. I do not know. News of the day, Hunter Dickinson decides he's going to go to to Kansas. Hey, can we play that drone strike again? I don't know if you know this, but yesterday, or the day before, I can't remember which, the show's been going on a long time, I am worried about World War III, and right there is why. That's a drone hitting the Kremlin. Don't think I'm crazy here. It's a drone hitting the Kremlin. Who funded that drone from Ukraine that hit the Kremlin? If I were the Russian government, I would want to know who funded it. Remember on 9/11, we not only wanted to know who did it, we want to know who funded it, who harbored it, basically everybody involved, and rightfully so. So, if I'm Russia, and a drone strikes our best, most important government building, I'm looking into it. Like, I think we all would if a drone from Russia, China, anywhere hit the White House, hit the Capitol building, hit the Pentagon. I think we would want to know every single thing from who did it, who paid for it, who harbored it, who built it, who allowed it, who okayed it. You see what I'm going here? I think we would all want to know. I think we would demand to know. In the world that we live in, certainly here in the United States, I think we would demand. I'm worried about World War III. That sounds insane to me. It does. It sounds absolutely nutty, stupid, insane. But I got to say, it doesn't seem that insane anymore. Answering questions, JPG, yes, I know the leg girl is from Germany and the surgery was done there. I said that, but we sure worry about it here in the United States. Last thing, get your team in now. Get it in now. It's the 13th annual Horseshoe Indianapolis, so we got a sponsor. I wanted all of our expenses paid so that every dime that you pay as a golfer in our golf outing coming up on July 10th here in Indianapolis at Golf Club of Indiana, which is right there in Whitestown / Zionsville, I want every dime that you pay to go to buying a bike. Cost is like, I think it's $300 a person. We're paying all the expenses that are on Evite, and I want every dime to go. When I did a golf outing before, we had expenses, we had things going to we had all kinds, we didn't give enough money to the charities. I want this to be our biggest fundraiser. We're going to have auction items like Golf with Me and Urban Meyer down in Florida. I'm going to see if Clay will get involved in something. We're going to try to make as much money and have as good a time as we can. And anybody that knows me knows that I don't waste time at golf outings. We hit balls, registration's open a long time. You can eat. We're going to have hot dogs, pizza. We're going to have all kind of stuff there. We have all kind of booze. We have fun stuff. We're going to have a huge appetizer / a light dinner, and we're going to get you out of there. Starts at 11. You'll be out of there by 6 at the latest, probably closer to 5, I would guess. Great prizes, fun people on a fantastic course. July 10th. Go to my Twitter page right now is where I had it. DanDakich.com is going to be up. But we're trying to make this a fundraiser where we can get so many kids all across the state of Indiana bicycles. Have a great day, everybody. Dylan and Ryan, thank you. There it is. Dakich Cycles for the City. Thank you for that. Ryan, Dylan, great job today coming up with the enforcers, everything else. Aaron and Katie. And, of course, Haley will join us tomorrow. Monster show today. Dibble and Greg Anthony were tremendous. Thank you all for watching. We will see you tomorrow.